In this edition of reShape 333, I want to give to you what I believe is the most important staff person on your church staff for at least the remainder of this decade. Priorities change over the years, but I believe this is the essential staffing priority, whether paid or unpaid, for your church for the next 5 or 6 years at least. And I can do it in way less than 333 seconds, so let's get at it. In the 1980s, when I started working in churches, the second staff person that most commonly was added in a church, if a church could afford it, was a youth pastor. It's where I started. Oftentimes it was a children/youth pastor position because most churches recognized they needed both, but they couldn't afford both. In the 1990s, seeker-sensitive was all the rage, and so producing a memorable Sunday worship experience became the priority. So churches started to hire worship leaders or pastors, at least part-time. And then in the early 2000s, most evangelical churches recognized that they want to build a good, strong, small group ministry in their church, and they appointed either a paid or an unpaid staff person to head up their small groups. The goal was to get 100% of our people connected to a small group. Some of you will remember that. I think in our church we connected probably 55% to 60% of people in a small group at one time. After that, it became someone to head up your media, which usually meant designing PowerPoint slides. But now, in our day, what is needed? Coming out of the last 3 years, what has changed? Who is that staff person today, paid or unpaid, that churches need more than ever? Particularly as it relates to reaching into your neighborhood and reaching out to your neighbors. I'm convinced it's this. Call it whatever you want, but I'm thinking it's a friendship pastor or director. Someone to create spaces for connection, someone to create spaces for belonging. It's someone to take the reins, to build a strategy, to create teams and events, and to create environments that will build a sense of connection and belonging and friendship. The question is simple. How do we help people find friends? In 2021, they did a Canada-wide national survey, and they determined that 53% of Canadians experience loneliness at least some of the time, and more worrisome than that is 70% of university students. Another recent study concluded that loneliness creates as much health risk in a person as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Imagine. You see, COVID-19 didn't create it, but it certainly accelerated a pattern of growth in our society for people to become more and more and more and more socially isolated. We were locked away for a long time, and now loneliness has become epidemic across our nation. So let me ask, if there was a target audience that included 53% of people in your community with the same need, wouldn't it be a no-brainer to try to figure out a way to meet that need? A very tiny percentage of people in your neighborhood are looking for sermons. A very tiny percentage of people in your neighborhood, I hate to tell you, are looking for a worship service. An insignificant number of people in your neighborhood are looking for a youth group program. But 53% of Canadians and 70% of students, and I bet even a greater number of new Canadians that have landed here on our shores, are looking for a place of belonging and simply are trying to find a friend. You need to appoint someone to lead the friendship charge and then help them build a team to do it. Paid or unpaid. 53% of Canadians want you to figure that out. So take some time to answer the following and discuss the following questions. Reflect on them yourself, or even better, do it with a team. Have some fun.